Let's suppose you want to explore the underwater world with your own eyes. As you step into the ocean, a depth of just 2 meters is enough for your feet to no longer touch the ground. At that point, you'd have to start diving. The first few meters can be done without equipment, but soon you'd need an oxygen tank. Even then, you can't go very deep. According to the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, the maximum allowed depth for recreational diving is 40 meters for safety reasons. But since you're safe at home, this is just a simulation. Let's keep descending. At this depth, the Christ, the Redeemer statue would already be completely submerged. At 90 meters, the Statue of Liberty would vanish underwater. Up to 100 meters, sunlight still penetrates without much difficulty, but beyond that, darkness slowly envelops you. Still, some have ventured deeper. The world record for diving is just over 300 meters, roughly the height of the Eiffel Tower, but underwater. Going further, around 400 meters is where military submarines typically operate, and we haven't even covered 5% of the ocean's depth yet. At 500 meters, the light continues to fade until the last rays disappear, and soon, there's absolutely nothing left to see. At 1 kilometer below the surface, only darkness remains. Even with your eyes wide open, everything around you is pitch black. At this point, the depth is already greater than the tallest human-made structure, and yet we're still not even 10% of the way down. We've now entered the deep ocean. Beyond 1,000 meters lies the bathypelagic zone, from the Greek word bathes, meaning deep. It's a good thing you can't see anything here, because this is where some truly bizarre creatures appear, like the blobfish, often called the world's ugliest animal, and giants like the colossal squid, which can grow over 15 meters long. Besides the darkness, you'd be freezing. Temperatures here hover around 4°C, but that's the least of your worries because the pressure, over 5,000 psi, equivalent to a pickup truck pressing on every square inch of your body, would have killed you long ago. Pressure is the biggest obstacle to deep-sea exploration, and it's what led to the tragic implosion of the Titan submersible, which was attempting to visit the Titanic wreck. Speaking of which, the famous ship's remains lie at about 3,800 meters. At 4,000 meters, we reach the abyssal zone, home to strange creatures like the Melanocetus johnsoni, better known as the anglerfish from Finding Nemo, which uses bioluminescence to lure prey in the darkness. Finally, we arrive at the hadalpelagic zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, a fitting clue to its nature. This zone covers the ocean's deepest half, from 6,000 meters down to the very bottom, the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, about 11,000 meters deep. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall, meaning Earth's depths exceed its heights. Reaching the Mariana Trench is incredibly difficult, but humans have done it a few times. The story of this conquest begins thousands of years ago with Archimedes' studies on buoyancy, the force that lifts submerged objects. Researchers inspired by his work dreamed of exploring the underwater world and developed machines capable of taking us to the depths and back safely. Leonardo da Vinci sketched early submarine designs, but the first functional one wasn't built until the 1600s by Cornelius Drebbel, a sealed rowboat connected to the surface by an air tube. Over the centuries, submarines evolved, powered by compressed air, diesel, and even nuclear energy, reshaping naval warfare and espionage. During the Cold War, a submarine arms race mirrored the space race, accelerating ocean exploration. In the 1930s, Americans William Beebe and Otis Barton reached 1,000 meters in a cramped steel bathysphere. Later, Jacques Cousteau's inventions revolutionized underwater filming. But the ultimate milestone came on January 23, 1960, when Swiss explorer Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh descended in the Trieste to the Mariana Trench, a feat unmatched for over 50 years until James Cameron repeated it in 2012. For decades, more people had walked on the moon than reached the trench's depths. Only recently, with advanced submersibles like the limiting factor, has the number of deep-sea explorers grown to 27. But how do we measure these depths? Surprisingly, we have better maps of Mars than of our ocean floor. Satellite altimetry detects subtle sea surface variations caused by underwater terrain, but resolution is coarse, about 1 km per pixel. For finer details, sonar is used, sending sound pulses and timing their return. Yet mapping the entire ocean this way would take decades. Enter the Seabed 2030 project, a global effort to map the entire seafloor by 2030 with unprecedented precision. Since its 2017 launch, coverage has jumped from 6% to over 20%. However, some fear detailed maps could accelerate deep-sea mining for metals like manganese and cobalt, threatening fragile ecosystems. Plastic waste has already reached the Mariana Trench, proof of human impact even in the remotest places. Yet, shunning knowledge isn't the answer. Understanding the deep ocean could improve tsunami warnings, internet infrastructure, climate science, and shipwreck recovery. It fulfills humanity as timeless drive to explore, the same impulse that took us to the moon and now beckons us to Earth as final frontier. The ocean's abyss is our planet's last great mystery, a realm of darkness slowly yielding its secrets, and that is truly extraordinary.